You are tuned to Kennett Cablevision. Thank you for watching. It's time for talk. Each evening at this time, Monday through Friday, Rosemary interviews local personalities and others who bring items of interest to this community. Time for Talk is a community betterment service. Tonight, Rosemary takes us by means of portable camera out of our studios and maybe into your neighborhood. And now, it's time for Talk.
Tonight we're continuing to unfold the story of this Missouri Bootheel. There are so many things to tell. A part of our problem was the selection of what should be included and what part we could leave out. Our thanks go to so many who gave us their personal testimonies. Also to the Missouri Historical Society, to PBS, and to the many history sources we consulted.
Yeah, then they had a program. You left so much cotton and stuff like that ground layout, you know, and the government paid you so much. I think that's when the sharecroppers went out of business. Because the people that owned the ground wanted all the money. No, they didn't need the sharecropper, but see, if they really, what was right, if a guy was sharecropping, he was supposed to get half of the money. Really, that was, if it was anything fair about it,
but the government was paying.
But most of the people that owned the ground didn't want to give the sharecropper nothing.
On the evening of January 9, 1939, sharecroppers, ex-sharecroppers, renters, and day laborers took their small and meager belongings to set up housekeeping along the highways to demonstrate their intolerable economic condition. They had determined that they had just as well starve and freeze on the highways as in their shacks. Their camps were scattered along 38 miles of US 60 east and west and 70 miles of US 61 north and south, forming a cross with Sykeston at the center. Landowners were galvanized into action. They said the situation was a result of normal year-end procedures and denied that croppers were being evicted. Their news release is interesting. This movement, they said, to the highways of this county is the result of unscrupulous and scheming agitators who have been deceiving the Negro tenants and sharecroppers by making them believe that they were going to be given property and money by the government and that they will not have to work. However, earlier attempts by the United States government to alleviate the plight of displaced sharecroppers seem to contradict much of these allegations. For example, in January 1937, 7,000 acres of land just north of New Madrid at La Forge was secured for the relocation of 150 families onto what were called family-size farms on which sharecroppers and tenants would be given a chance to begin again. Very few of the protesters came from Dunklin County. Someone has said that Dunklin County was spared this problem because of inherent honest business relationships between landowners and tenants or sharecroppers.
People would bring their corn and put it in this barn, and you gathered 3 loads for yourself and 1 for Mr. Shelton. And all those farmers were real truthful people. And in fact, they really tried to see that Mr. Shelton's load of corn had every ear in it that it should have in it.
There's a lot of places that they didn't have that good a relationship with the landowners. And some of the landowners would not, they'd take advantage of the people. They might be illiterate, they couldn't read, and they would charge them extra for their stuff, and when they bought it at the store, and then they would, and that was the same. That was one of the situations that existed too up around Sykeston at Catron, and I know one instance up there at a store that during the Saturday evening rush and night rush, they had all the business, most of the business was did Saturday afternoon, Saturday night in the company store. Someone got out with a pair of hip boots that wasn't charged to anyone, so they just charged it to everyone.
The news of bedraggled wives and children of the roadside families spread across the nation. President Roosevelt's wife, Eleanor, publicized the plight of the croppers in her column, My Day. But immediate governmental aid never materialized. President Roosevelt depended for information on Aubrey Williams, the administrator of the NYA, or National Youth Administration. Williams' report to him was really to the point. The situation, he said, is a symptom of the widespread situation existing throughout the South. It has been estimated that at least 250,000 families are being forced off farms in the South this year. Williams' fear was that local communities would try to solve the problem in a way that ignores the civil rights and the liberties our government is supposed to guarantee. Indeed, the local authorities did find a way to deal with the demonstrators. Dr. Harry Parker, the state health commissioner, reported that the sanitary conditions were as bad as possible. Using 24 highway department trucks, they dispersed and scattered the demonstrators. A group of 500 was left on a Mississippi River spillway near New Madrid. Within a few months, money had been raised in St. Louis, enough to purchase 90 acres of land southwest of Poplar Bluff near Harveyell, and on June 17, 1939, 95 families moved on to the plot. What became of the other protesters? It seems they just melted back into the countryside. But an impact had been made in Washington, D.C., and in 1940, the Farm Security Administration began building homes for the displaced farm families. And projects were started in 7 areas of southeast Missouri. Homestown, near Wardell, and Delmo, now a part of Kennett, were 2 of them. Time for Talk's interest began with an awareness that inside Kennett's city limits lies the Delmo subdivision, located at the end of Independence Avenue across the highway from Masterson Elementary School. Facing Dunklin Street, which is its circular thoroughfare, are houses reminiscent of the late 1930s and early 1940s when they were built. Sometimes called the Colony, this subdivision didn't become a part of Kennett in an ordinary way.
We have come out in the Colony. Now, I know this as the Colony. The younger ones do not know this as the Colony, but we are out on the section just at the edge of Kennett. We're on the way toward Holcomb. Independence makes a turn, and this street is called Independence in here. And we have a lady standing here. You see her name on the mailbox, May Pearl Yount. Is that the way am I saying your last name correctly? Right. And May Pearl is one of the very early people to come into this colony. You bought your house how long ago? Almost 50 years?
Yes, almost 50 years now.
Okay. And you raised how many children here?
Just one little boy. I had 2 when I moved here.
All right. And so one boy was born here, and he's now how old?
46.
Okay, so you've been early in this. Like, what did this area look like when you moved
Well,
here?
it didn't have a shade tree or nothing on it, and it had a big high water tank over there at the wash house, they called it. And
A high water tank at the wash house?
Yes, ma'am. It was way in the air. And
Well, now, is the wash house still here?
no, they sold out or moved out or done something, and built a big church over there.
Okay, now I want to go. In fact, there are many of you you who are looking at this tape today who know a lot about the history of the colony, and I wish you would call me and tell me some things. I'm going to find out everything May Pearl knows, but she may not know everything. I don't know much. And if you will call and tell me, I know about the history of this. I have understood that it belonged to a Mr. McGee, and it was an orchard. And somehow the government became involved in trying to build this, and you may know about this. I would welcome somebody to call. But now, May Pearl, you all lived, where did you live when you came to the colony?
About 5 miles north of Kennett, up here on a farm. We farmed.
All right. Now, how did you decide you wanted to come to Kennett?
Well, the man that sold the house to us, he was pulling bowls for us, coming out there working for us. My brother was in service, and he's sending me his money. So
how much money was he sending you a month?
He's just sending me what he could spare, what he didn't want.
And most months that would amount to?
Well, it amounted to enough that I could pay the down payment on this house.
Okay, now what was the down payment?
$100. Had to send it to Mr. Rogers in St. Louis.
And you sent the down payment to a man in St. Louis.
Yeah.
And all of these houses were here?
Yes, they're occupied.
Okay, and all of them were here, and many have been built since you moved here, right?
Yes.
Okay, it was not nearly...
Some burned, some houses burned down.
Now, you talked to me about a wash house.
Well, they had to...
Did you have plumbing and everything indoors here?
No, I didn't have any at all. Only just a pump outside.
Oh, you didn't have indoor plumbing when you moved here?
Mm-mm.
Did you have indoor toilet?
We had
You had a little room out on the path?
Yeah.
You had 4 rooms and a path?
Yes, that's
right. And so you had a wash house. Was this central for everybody?
Everybody went there and washed, but my daughter, she went there and washed her clothes. She was in school, and she went there and washed her clothes. I wasn't able to do it.
It was just down the road?
Right there where that big brick church is, just beyond that house there.
Okay. But it stayed a wash house. And would everybody go? Did you have to make reservations for what day you wanted to work?
I reckon they just...
What was in there?
Just wash tubs.
You mean like number 2 wash tubs, or were there sinks built in?
It was built-in tubs. This woman right here's got one of them.
Who provided those, Rosemary?
And who provided the tubs?
I don't know.
Were they there when you moved in?
Yes.
And you understood when you built your house you could use the tubs?
The house was already here. We just bought it already built.
The colony was not the only place, Delmore, as you would call it, either Delmore or the colony, was not the only place. Dunklin County did not have the only project that went on in this section of the country. In fact, every county had its own project. We are here just out of Pascola, just out of Wardell, here in Pemiscot County, and you see the exact same thing as the colony. You see, it was begun as a low-rent housing by the government, and then the people were allowed to buy their own places. But you see a typical thing here. You see this long, low building that housed the offices. Then you see the washroom. You see the areas that were in common usage by all of the people here. Water was not available. City water was not available, and so one place had all of the washing facilities, much as it was in Kennett. The colony certainly is typical of things that went on in this Bootheel of southeast Missouri in the 30s and early 40s.
You have been watching Time for Talk. Time for Talk is a community betterment service designed to cooperate with our local community betterment program. Each evening, Monday through Friday at this time, Rosemary interviews local personalities and others who bring items of interest to this community. If you are aware of items of interest, please let us know for possible airing on this program. Time for Talk is brought to you through the cooperation